purpose of this lecture, that is my meaning of education, the reality and impact on Muslim societies. Well, if we agree that to be thoroughly educated is a necessity and a background needed for improving the livings of Muslims, then it means there is no kind of education that we must not acquire. Today, the Muslims in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, we complain. We complain of the fact that you get to CMS, you get to Nnamdi Azikiwe Street, you get to Bangoshe. It is all those churches and their allies that own all the building. And my answer always to this is that where were the Muslims when they were owning it? Because as an historian, I know that the Muslims were not just living at those places before the Christians, but they were joint owners. Some of them were part of those who inherited initially all the places that the Christians are now taken over. The problem really was that the paucity of education of the Muslims at that time hindered them from thinking that they will need all the lands later. They allowed this piece of land to be sold to churches at peanuts. Whoever had taken into Christianity among members of their family would appeal to them. Yet they also had mosque, and there was no need for them to think that the mosque will grow beyond the four walls of the mosque as they have it now. And this was due to paucity of real understanding of education. Instead, it's on record that some preachers were telling them that these are worldly possessions. There are still some people who tell you that now. Islam does not like those who are wasteful, those who are engaged in Usrah, but it loves those who put into good use whatever Allah has given them. Those who think of the fact that, yes, I'm comfortable, but will that take me to Al-Jannah? Your comfort, without allowing the effect to spread to your neighbors, 40 houses to the right, to the left, to the front, and to the back, and to those whom you sit together as brothers and sisters, is no comfort but discomfort, because you will be urged about it. It's the Muslims that are not usually bothered when they think of worldly things, of whatever their children and offspring are doing. So they were easily taken to Christianities. This is not to say that there were not a few very conscious Muslims, because at every stage of development of Christianity in the southwest of Nigeria, there were those who stood firmly that instead of the children of Muslims being taken away, they would instead find alternatives. And what they had done mostly was to form schools. That is why you have the Ansaruddin schools, you have the Nawaruddin schools, you have the Anwarul Islam school. In fact, it was the Anwarul Islam, with the juvenile youth movement metamorphosing into Ahmadiyya, which later became Anwarul Islam, that started this. It was from Anwarul Islam that Jamaatul Islamiyya came out, because the founder of Jamaatul Islamiyya was not comfortable with the creed of Ahmadiyya, and they also started schools. Ansaruddin was the second to move out with the sole aim of educating the Muslims. But yet, with all these problems they had, trying to educate Muslims, they were only giving them Christianized education. They were giving them Christianized education. And that was why those who found the various Arabic schools the Mahaj, and the Marakis, all these schools, they formed it not to fall into the pit of the Anwarul Islam and Samudin. Because to them, though the children may be retained in Islam, but they only know a little about Islam. They only know a little about Islam. This situation was not just in Nigeria alone. Everywhere in the world where the Muslim communities were. But it got to a stage when Saudi Arabia had interaction. When Saudi Arabia had interaction with the West, they saw that so many projects were going to be carried out. Yet those who were implementing these projects included no indigenous. Why? Because the indigenous didn't have any knowledge of the sciences that were required. And that was when a decision was made that the kind of education, purely education according to Islamic tradition, should now be changed. And they just didn't stop at that. They called a world conference of Muslims on this. When they called the World Conference of Muslims, there were about 5 of such conferences. They now agreed that there have been mistakes in what they call education. There has been mistake on what they call education. If you can go to the slide of a conference held in Saudi Arabia, part of the first resolution was that the existing conditions in present-day educational institutions in most Muslim countries do not truly reflect the Islamic ideal, and these institutions do not play their rightful role in the education of the younger generation in Islamic faith, thought, and conduct. And there exists at present a regrettable dichotomy in education in the Muslim world. One system, namely religious education, being completely divorced from the secular sciences, and secular education being the second, being equally divorced from religion, although such compartmentalization was contrary to the true Islamic concept of education, which made it impossible for the products of either system to represent Islam as a comprehensive and integrated vision of life. See, what I am saying here is that even those who founded Ansaruddin, as well as those who founded Marikas and others, they only went to a particular department of the compartmentalization made by them, and none of them really represented Islam correctly. So when these conferences started, there were 5. They came annually for 5 years like that. So majority of the Muslim communities world over now change the style. There is what we call harmonization. It is like the Islamization project started by Triple IT. You see, it is what we call harmonization. All what you want to teach them in the traditional Arabic school, include it in the curriculum. All those sciences that are necessary, include it in the same curriculum, and start to teach them. You harmonize it, you start to teach them. And I want to report that in less than 10 years after this started, it took over all the former curricula that you have in all Muslim world, except a place like Southwest Nigeria and a few other places in Africa. Even if you go to Benin Republic there, you will find the harmonized program there. There are so many examples in Nigeria of a few schools that are taken to this. Before people took to this, some individuals started private Muslim schools. such as the one at Yokota or Isolo, first English, and it didn't get the curriculum that we are talking of. All that such school, or even Al-Furqan, Alim, all those ones that came, we must appreciate them. We must salute them, at least for thinking that, no, we can't go teaching all sciences without embedding them with religious knowledge. And the effects are there in the products of those schools. But later, some people really now took to this harmonization. For example, there is Al-Kanemi College in Maiduguri. Every student of Al-Kanemi who do all the subjects of the madrasa. They do Nahab, they do Sarfu, they do Mantiq, they do Qira'ah, they do Tahfidh al-Quran. Okay? Yet they will now do all sciences. Because Al-Kanemi started as a protest that required a result that would fill the very long gap between the Muslims. So they went for all sciences. And in less than 5 years, in the common certificate, that is the school certificate, organized by WAEC, not the higher Islamic certificate, their students were scoring all A's in sciences, and in just one sitting. That gives validity to the assumption that whoever is able to read the Quran and memorize it will not find it difficult to learn any other thing. After Al-Academy, in Latvia, Nasarawa State, there is also an Iman school that followed the same pattern. And today, most of those who have passed through the school are the people controlling the civil service of the state. There are scholars, there are some of them who became Islamic scholars, but they are very few. Most of them are engineers, medical doctors, botanists, and they always take pride to tell the world that I attended an Iman Muslim school. In Lagos, just a few years, the Ansarudin group of school is moving gradually. It has not completed a curriculum. That's a unified curriculum. But at least like FAEF, Furqan, and whatever did in the past, it has special classes for Arabic and Islamic studies while they encourage their students to go for sciences. What I am saying in essence is that it is still not late, because this is a project that will give us a lasting result, that those who have private Muslim schools, be it the Marikaz type or the Ansarudin type, should endeavor to go into this new curriculum. Because that is the major way that our Arabic schools are being affected. Look, the way Lagos is going now, I was in a discussion with the director of PG studies last week. She's my friend. And I said, you're a big director now. Your former acting vice chancellor came to me and said, I should thank my friend because she's now a teacher. And I said, okay, it means you're a big person. I may also want to come and learn education. I said, you'll be a stubborn student. I said, I'll try to behave well from today. The truth of the matter is that somebody who is in physiology is thinking out of the box, that it can get to a stage and they say you only know physiology and you are not a teacher. Because teachers are trained. That is the truth. You can give a lecture that everybody will fall in love in. It does not make you a teacher. Because if a teacher now criticizes the lecture, telling you the pedagogical mistakes therein, how you are not disciplined in your presentation, these are areas that somebody has to teach you before you know them. Because the audience is okay with you does not mean you have done it well. So what we are saying is that those people, the two groups, for the Muslims, owners of private school, owners of Arabic school, to enjoy the best and be able to take our rightful position in the community, we must definitely adopt the unified curriculum, because the basis of our faith itself does not allow a segregated curriculum. Wherever you find knowledge, catch it. It is not based on the Quran alone. That, in fact, when the Prophet sent a messenger out, someone has said this is a Daif hadith, but it is not Daif, it is Hassan. Yeah. He sent a messenger and said, what are you going to judge with? Islam was still very young. He said, I will judge with the book of Allah. He said, if you have not found it explicitly there, he said, with all that you have told us, he said, perhaps you have not heard such a thing from me. He said, I will use my understanding derived from the two books. And the Prophet said, Alhamdulillah, that Allah has guided the messenger of his messenger. The meaning of this is that even Islam allows people to be able to apply intelligence. If something is not logical, you should be able to take a logical position before you go back to ask for those who know. So what we are saying in essence is that even the Quran supports reasoning. It supports those who are intelligent. When Allah speaks of giving wisdom, he says, of course, the basis of that verse is not really about knowledge or reasoning. It has to do with giving charity. It is confirming what is saying about charity. Because it's only those who are intelligent that give charity. There's something that you give 10,000 and your account with Allah is over 1 million. So it's only anybody who is intelligent that can see from that. An unintelligent person that I give you 10,000 out of the 100,000 that I have, it remains 90,000 because he is not intelligent. Allah says, you tell the matter by Yasha. He gives whoever that divine intelligence. Whoever is given such an intelligence, we have given him abundance of good. He said, nobody can think straightly in that manner except he who is a Lateef. Lateef is the singular of Albab. When somebody's name is Lateef, that person must be extraordinarily intelligent. And Islam also speaks of the fact that look at the Quran. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Ability to identify differences, divergences in anything shows that that person is intelligent. So Allah challenges an intelligent person to go through the Quran, which is absolutely saying that Islam itself as a faith recognizes the fact that one must be intelligent. So what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, I'm still coming back to what the traditional Arabic school has done to us, but I like to conclude like this before coming to that area, because I do not want people to assume that I have anything against Arabic school. No, I can't ever am a product of Arabic school. So right to the haq wa the haqi, akun muallimun. All the rights of my teacher who taught me how to read, to write Arabic, forever I will continue to give the right to him. Because if he has not even been available then, nobody would have known anything. But naturally, the way Allah creates the world is that there must always be progression in any program. So it's the time that in our program of education, there must be progression, so that we shall be able to take our position when there is a national exam and the first Muslim that you find is the number 36, 1 to 35. They are all Christians because they are attending, what's the name of this school? All those schools. Corona is not even the best now. I have found a better one. The British, then there is this one that has a name like Crossland or something like that. I was there to give a lecture at my history program. Yes. Brother, I was there. The music instruments that they have is far better than the entire last theater and music for kids. Kindergarten, nursery, primary. One of my former MA students invited me. While we were going, I now asked him, how much does a primary school student pay in it there? He said, well, the least is 500,000. I said, in a term. So, how much is my salary? All these things are factors. They are factors that help assimilation. The environment is very important. Sheikh Abdul speaks about al-hal fi makan al-ilm. The environment is so important. And he also said, ilmul hal, after. Whenever you find yourself in a contemporary time, your ability to master the knowledge of the time is very important too. So, and we want to get there and surpass those people there. This is where we should start. We should make sure that the next school companion is going to found. I know you were trying to found one criterion. Is he on now? Yes, because I was part of the initial. Please, the next one we are going to found should be a modern school. The problem with the Muslims, I know, it is because the Muslims have this problem that Allah has brought you on earth. The problem is that they don't want to pay anything. They always want to negotiate for quality. And you know, those who have schools are in business. When they see you negotiating, they bring down the quality. I'm begging you, sir, that don't bring down the quality. Because you are Muslim leaders, you know how to beg for money. And don't say because we are now honorable, we won't beg. You have to beg. So that the future of our children will be better. Let them have feelings about these good facilities and instruments. I tell you, the Muslim will excel. But the excellence of any Muslim is inbuilt in him. Secondly is that it is a challenge to us by our religion, by Allah, by the Prophet, that we must acquire all forms of knowledge. The third one is that nobody is too big to acquire new knowledge. If you see there is a little chance, there's a new kind of knowledge, put interest there, put effort there, pray to Allah, and they will crown your effort. One old man used to be in last week. I saw him last after his masters.